All right, so this is presentation 3 of Unit 2, and this one we're looking at the beginning of Rome. And Rome starts out as a republic and then will grow into an empire. It's important to know the difference between the two. So basically speaking, the Roman Republic lasted from about 400 BC until about 45 BC, so right before Jesus was born, and then it becomes an empire. So when Jesus was born, it was right at the beginning of the Roman Empire, and that lasted until 476 AD. So getting to the beginning of Rome, it's located on a curve along the Tiber River, about 20 miles away from where it empties out into the Mediterranean Sea. And there's 7 hills that surround Rome. They're called the Palatine Hills, and the city was basically built on those hills. So it started out as a small village, and then eventually grew into a more important city over time because of its location. Now the legend goes is that there was 2 brothers, Romulus and Remus, that were raised by wolves that grew up and then started the city and stuff like that. Which, of course, that isn't true. That's how the story goes. But as far as this region, originally you had really 3 groups of people that lived here. You have the Latins, the Greeks, and the Etruscans. The Latins were native to the area around Rome. The Greeks were on the southern peninsula, southern Italian peninsula. And then Etruscans lived in the north, kind of present day, like where Florence is, and that region. So that's the 2 different groups that were here. All right, now the beginning of the Roman Empire continued. So the Etruscans, they were the main group that kind of influenced the development of Roman civilization. So from them, the Romans adopted the alphabet and also influenced Roman architecture. That's where they got the idea of the arch from and things like that. So quite a bit came from the Etruscans. And then Romans borrowed religious ideas from the Greeks mainly. So like Zeus, the god Zeus, became Jupiter. Hera, his wife, became the goddess Juno. So basically they just changed the names of the gods and goddesses that the Greeks worshipped for the most part, but they continue to worship them just the same. All right, so the early republic. First, the Etruscans, they had a monarchy in the region, and the people living in Rome, they got tired of the monarchy. The Etruscan kings had really overreached their power, or their bounds. And also, too, the people that lived in Rome didn't like the Etruscans ruling. The Etruscans are kind of seen more as foreigners, where the people that lived in Rome were Latins, and so they just didn't really want them in power. So they kick them out of power, but now you have 2 different groups that control everything, or at least how society is divided up. You have the patricians and the plebeians. The patricians are your rich landowning aristocrats, and they really hold pretty much all the power, and then the plebeians are your common farmers and artisans and merchants and all that. So obviously there's a lot more plebeians, but they're not really going to have much power whatsoever. But they formed a republic, and so a republic is really just like the United States government. It's where we elect leaders that then decide the laws for the country. And of course, they're supposed to represent our ideas and what we want done. So you had citizens that had the right to vote to select those leaders. And then the Senate selected tribunes to protect plebeians from patrician overrule. So think about it. I mean, in a sense, it's supposed to be like checks and balances like in our government. It's also supposed to kind of be like our Supreme Court system. So the idea is the Senate, elects these judges in order to protect the plebeians, so protect the poor people from the rich people and make sure that they get their voice heard. But keep in mind here, it's the Senate that's choosing this, and the Senate are your mainly rich people. So your rich people are choosing who's supposed to be protecting the poor people. And so obviously you're going to have some issues there, making sure that the poor people, the plebeians, are actually being protected like they should be from how the rich can become very greedy and pushy. All right. And then you get the first code of laws that was written. It's called the 12 Tables. This is the first Roman system of law. So think kind of like Hammurabi's Code and stuff like that. But this was, of course, based on more freedom. And so it established the idea that all free citizens, patricians, and plebeians had the right to vote and right to protection of the law. Now, of course, slavery was rampant throughout the empire. But these 12 tables were posted here in this photo. I took this photo of the Roman Forum. This is in the city of Rome, and this is really kind of like the main shopping area. So this is where the Roman government met. It's where the Senate met. It's also like where you would go and shop and sell things and things like that. So this was the heartbeat of the city. All right, so the Roman government was set up similar to ours, but some very distinct differences. So they had 2 consuls. Think of the consuls as kind of like our president. But they had two at a time, and they led the army and the government, and their terms were only 1 year, and one consul could veto the other. So think about it this way: you could have one consul leading Monday, and then Tuesday another consul takes over and then vetoes everything the one did before. So almost imagine if like Trump and Obama were consuls and Trump was leader Monday and then Obama was leader Tuesday. You can imagine the chaos that would ensue from that. But at least it kept from one person getting too much power. And also think about how long it takes to get anything done. In our government, it can take a while to get stuff done. And so if your term's only 1 year, not a lot's going to happen. Then you have your Senate. You have 300 members, whereas we have 100 in ours. It's mainly high class for the most part, and they were elected for life, compared to where we have 6-year terms for senators. Then you have the Centuriate Assembly. The Centuriate Assembly is going to be similar to our House of Representatives. So this is citizen soldiers, and they elected the consuls and made laws. Now the good thing here is that you're really getting your, basically your lower class people, your plebeians, are picking the consuls. So that's a good check and power there, making sure that it's not just the rich people controlling everything. So they had good checks and balances in that system. And then they have the tribal assembly. This is totally controlled by the plebeians, and they elected the tribunes and made laws. And so again, making sure that the poor are protected. All right, the Roman army, and this is going to be one of the big reasons why they're able to conquer so much area. All citizens who own land were required to serve in the army. So every man had to serve at age of 18. And moving forward, they organized in a legions of 5,000 soldiers each, so each legion had a commander. And then they were organized all the way down into a century, for example, which was a group of 80 men. And then you had a cavalry that supported each legion. So this is a very highly organized and structured military, which is going to make it much more flexible on battle because you can move your legions around, and within those, your centuries and things like that, it can, be flexible and do different things to achieve one goal instead of just one big army going in and all fighting together. All right, and then Rome starts to spread. Eventually, they sack the Gauls. That's present-day France, so they take over that region. And then, let me start over that. Okay, Rome spreads its power. Even though Rome got sacked by the Gauls, so the people that are present-day French, they're able to take over Rome, but they were able to rebuild it. And then Rome basically, to defend itself, they realized, hey, we need to take over more land and basically conquer these areas so we don't get attacked. So Rome took over the Etruscans to the north and then the Greek city-states to the south, and they united the Italian peninsula all under the Roman Empire. So this is how they divided up, who was what within the Roman Empire as it begins to spread. So if you were pretty much in the city of Rome for the most part, if you were Latin, and you were a full citizen of Rome automatically. Now, the further away you got from Rome, you had all the rights of a Roman citizen except the right to vote, because really the government in Rome really mainly dealt with the city of Rome, not as much the outlying parts as it began to spread. And then after that, all other conquered peoples, they just had to send in troops and not make alliances with anybody else. So when you look at the size of the Roman Empire, those areas that were spread out, basically, they just had to pay taxes and then, send people to fight and then not make alliances with any other groups, and they were fine. Then you get to the Punic Wars. This is the first test for the Roman Republic, and this is what's going to catapult them from a little republic into a giant empire. You get to the Punic Wars. There's 3 of these. First one starts in 264, and this is between the city of Rome and the city of Carthage. Carthage is in northern Africa. And really what they're fighting over is control the Mediterranean Sea. And to be able to control a big empire in that area, in the Mediterranean world, you have to control the Mediterranean Sea. If you can control the Mediterranean Sea, you can control all the land that the Mediterranean touches. And so the key here is taking out Carthage. So the first Punic War is in 264 to 241 BC. It's for control of Sicily, which, if you remember Sicily... Okay. Sicily is the boot. Sicily is the football that the boot is kicking.
So, you guys reading this or are you?
I'm looking at that, yeah. All right, so Sicily is basically the football. It's an island that Italy looks like it's kicking. So they're trying to fight over control of that, because if you can control Sicily, then you can control the Mediterranean, or most of it. So Carthage is defeated. Then you get to the Second Punic War, 218 to 202 BC. Now you get to Hannibal. Hannibal is this evil dude. He is just bent on destroying Rome. He invades. He goes into Spain and marches through France, and then gets into Italy. and just lays waste to the Italian countryside, burning city after city, killing thousands upon thousands of people. Finally, though, he gets defeated, and before Hannibal can make it back to Carthage, Scipio, a Roman commander, was able to go into Carthage and burn it to the ground. So when Hannibal got back to Carthage, the city was destroyed. And then the Third Punic War, Rome invaded Carthage for retaliation and took it over, completely leveled it, and enslaved all the people. So once Carthage was defeated and Rome could secure the Mediterranean world, this is when they become an empire. So now Rome takes over Macedonia, Greece, and Anatolia. And it stretches from Anatolia to Spain. So here's a map of it. So you can see the Roman Empire controlled big portions of the Middle East, along Mesopotamia, Tigris, Euphrates River, present-day Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Israel, down over to Egypt. All of the northern coast of Africa was part of the Roman Empire. A good chunk of Europe, so present-day Portugal, Spain, France, England, all the way to the border of Scotland. A little bit of part of Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, all of the Balkan Peninsula, present-day Turkey. All this is part of the Roman Empire, so it becomes a vast empire. At this point in history, this map is from 150 AD. Rome had 60% of the entire world's population live just in that area. So you can see why they would have such a vast impact on our culture and our civilization, considering they controlled more than half of the world's population at that particular time.